Friends, I want to thank you tonight for letting us invade your home and your lives for a few minutes. My name is Dr. Daniel Daves. My wife Tracy and I have lived in Central America for almost 8 years now. We started in Costa Rica, migrated to Panama looking for perfect farmland and for a place to base out of. We have two beautifully grown children, Danny and Ariel. And the third one over there, little 3-pound Dinky, she's the light and joy of, of the family. And she is the most spoiled little missionary on planet Earth, I got to tell you that. Now, I've been in ministry for 36 years and have been married to Tracy for 30 years. We love Jesus, and we have been involved in both ministry and business all of our married years. And fortunately, our business strategies have been responsible and blessed us so we could find ourselves on the mission field, pastoring and doing different things throughout the last 36 years of my life. Now, I pastored in Kansas. I pastored in St. Louis, Missouri for 20 years before heading to the nations. And also, when we decided to head to the nations, we knew we were going to be feeding children internationally. We had done it in small portions, but we knew we were going to be feeding widows and orphans in a much larger way. We've helped train pastors, community leaders, worked with community transformation projects in Asia, Latin America, and Africa. I am the founding president of Children's Feeding Network, which is our long-standing little U.S. nonprofit organization. We focus on feeding widows and orphans in distress. I believe that started in 1982. That dates me. 1982, I was a little rock and roll Christian musician, and I was doing drug and alcohol abuse concerts and preaching Jesus, and I slipped over into Mexico one day, and I saw children living in shacks fighting through the dump trying to find a meal, and I couldn't believe it. I'd landed in National Geographic territory. I couldn't believe it was real, and I had trouble sleeping for 3 months after that. Finally, I dedicated myself and said, a portion of everything I do is going to go to help those struggling kids, and that thing never stopped. If you don't mind, I'd like to start off this meeting with a short but powerful study of a few of my most dearly held scriptures. In John 21, verse 17, it says, speaking of Jesus, "Then he said it a third time, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me?' Now, Peter was upset that he had asked for the third time, 'Do you love me?' So he answered, 'Master, you know everything there is to know. You've got to know that I love you.' Jesus said, 'Feed my sheep.'" Now, there is a deep truth in this passage of Scripture which Jesus drove into Peter 3 times in order to get the point across. And he didn't want Peter to gloss this command over because this one command would prove Peter's love for Jesus, and it would open up a powerful, secret kingdom door of provision and supply that came from heaven's fourth dimension onto the earth in Peter's life. It would result in Peter's shadow healing the sick, and Peter walking in the miraculous for the rest of his life. Now, I've found this to be absolutely true through my 36 years in ministry, and we started in the beginning of our little ministry when I was youth pastoring with a struggling little church food pantry. I think everyone's probably seen one of those. We had to fight every weekend to get people to remember to bring a can of beans. But then we did a youth group summer farm where we grew so much produce we could not get rid of it all. It was amazing, the opportunity to sell some, to help pay the youth for their time, and to give a bunch away. From there, we started moving semi-trucks of food to the poor. We sent truckloads of nutrition to hard-hit countries that were in desperate trouble. I remember a miracle back in the late 1980s. We received 40,000 pounds of nutritious wheatgrass superfood tablets, and we sent them to the nation of Liberia, where many were going to starve that winter because their crops had failed that year, and the supply came right on time. Now, I got to ask you, how did this grow from a little bare shelved food pantry to semi-truckloads of food? And now we have a working 1.5-acre greenhouse in a farm in Panama that distributes up to 2,500 pounds of fresh vegetables every week. Now, I believe it's found in the secret of John 21:17 by feeding his sheep. Now, I want to tell you, I got a key, a kingdom key that was handed to me in about 20 years ago on the mission field in the Philippines. I was going to have an opportunity to sit down at lunch with a great evangelist this guy had filled stadiums around the world with his evangelism campaigns. Every healing miracle known to man had been documented in his meetings. He was the only preacher in history to ever fill Caesar's palace with one of his crusades. I knew his organization, and I knew they were feeding over 100,000 children per day. And here I was, we were doing small potatoes at the time of giving, and, just a little here, a little there. And I knew that I needed to sit down with him, and I had about 30 minutes. So I shot my one question at him, and I asked him, "Sir, if you could tell me one key principle that you operate in to be successful in ministry, what would that one key principle be?" He looked at me and he replied. He said, "My answer is not one that you think it's going to be." And then he went on and he said, "The fact is, I'm not a very smart guy. I get the Bible stories mixed up when I preach. I have Moses building the ark and King David crossing the Red Sea." He said, "I can't speak very well, and I'm a pretty selfish person in real life." That was interesting. He said, "I'm harsh with people." He said, "If we were going to work together, I'd probably offend you quickly because I would say something wrong. But," he said, "with all these problems and weaknesses, I have one thing in my favor. I feed widows and orphans." And then he paused. And then he continued. He said, "And because I take care of God's most needy, he allows me to live my dream, which is preaching to big crowds and seeing them receive their healing miracles." This man showed me that feeding God's sheep unlocked a secret door of supply and provision to him that gave him the ability to touch a lot of lives around the world. And that was the point where he said, "I have this in my favor. I feed widows and orphans." And since that time, I have found a whole lot of supporting scriptures. And I said that day, I want to do the same thing. I want to love Jesus like this. I want to feed his sheep. So I found these supporting scriptures that prove that God's interest really is on feeding his sheep, caring for the poor, and taking care of widows and orphans in distress. As a matter of fact, I've found that God has made two direct promises in the Bible. He said, number one, "I will be a father to the fatherless," and that is Psalm 68:5. And number two, he said, "I will be a husband to the widow," Isaiah 54:4. With these two promises in place, God is looking for ambassadors and servants who will bring supplies to his widows and orphans. And anyone who stands up like the prophet Isaiah did and says, "Here am I, Lord, send me," God will supernaturally fill the pipeline of that person, that family, that church or business. He will fill it with divine provision so his promise can be fulfilled in their lives. I'm telling you, it's an amazing and powerful truth that is secretly wrapped up in the command to feed my sheep. You see, Jesus was giving Peter and us a principle. It's not easy to feed the sheep. It's not easy to feed people. It's easier just to move along and let someone else do it. But Jesus was saying, do you want to tap an unseen force, an unseen supply from heaven that will not only bring supply to them but make your dreams come true? Try feeding my sheep. Now, James also makes it clear that the very purest form of religion that God accepts is to look after widows and orphans in their distress. That's James 1:27. And I've always been a student of Proverbs. the book of Kings. And I started understanding a little more clearly the powers of provision and supernatural supply through caring for the poor. And now I understand the two powerful proverbs. The first one is Proverbs 28:27 that says, "Whoever gives to the poor lacks nothing." How can that be? You give to the poor, you lack nothing. It's because something turns on from a heavenly supply. And the other one is, "He who is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward him for what he has done." Proverbs 19:17. So with all of this in mind, I want to challenge every person right now that's listening to my voice. I challenge you to find a way to give to widows and orphans in distress. Be kind to the poor. Give a portion of your life to caring for those who could never pay you back. Because when you do this, you get very close to the heartbeat of your Heavenly Father. And the heavenly supply from His heartbeat will actually begin to come your way supernaturally. Divine doors will open. They'll open here, they'll open there. God will order your steps. He'll ordain connections and relationships which will be made by literally unseen forces around you. Those connections will be made. And they'll help you to accomplish the task at hand. It's an amazing thing, and it's something that I hope every one of you can experience firsthand with the rest of your lives. Here's a shot of some widows and orphans. The one down in the lower right. About 2 weeks ago, we rolled in with some sacks of peppers and tomatoes, and I gave them to the little boy in the blue shirt, and he said, "Come back and meet my mother." And we walked and walked up and over and down through the weeds. I had to jump down off of a rock, and we came down to her home, and that's her home, as you can see. That's her home. Anything can get in. Water, rain can get in. She sows to try to make a few dollars, and she takes care of 3 children. And that's what it's all about. When we touch people like her and her children, heaven's supply opens, because God made a promise to her and to her children that He would be a father for them and that He would be a husband for her. And when we step out, we see this every day. We step out and do what Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." All of a sudden, our businesses prosper. Our ministry prospers. Food shows up. People start offering us stuff. They hunt us down to give us things so that we can give them away. It is an amazing thing, and I want you to experience that as well. All right. I want to show you what we're doing and why we're doing it. And let's start by sharing some unrefutable facts with you that I have found since planning to start a farm in Panama. And my intention was to somehow feed the world. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but we knew the Lord was calling us to start a farm. Well, the farm project literally took us 6.5 years, kind of the same time that King David spent out in the mountains training his men before he became the king. It was tough. It was hard. It was small. We were sweating out there on a little piece of farmland in National Geographic territory, 6 blocks from the nearest light bulb. And we're working with the Nobe Indians and the indigenous. We don't speak their language and they don't speak ours, but we were getting the job done. You know, I've learned, and I learned this a long time ago, don't despise the day of small beginnings, because we knew somehow that this little thing was important. The timing was important. Everything was important to get it done to the glory of God on time and in excellence. And on January 1, 2018, we finished the construction of the farm. It's in operation, it's functioning, and now phase 2 begins to reach the world. By the way, I've got a book that's coming out. I'm hoping to get it out by the end of this year. Be looking for it. It's called Global Food Revolution. And it's a clarion call to the whole world to step up and begin to grow food. Learn how. Either grow some lettuce in your backyard, get a lettuce growing tower in your kitchen and grow your vegetables there. Do something for yourself and for the community around you. On a commercial level, there's a lot of call and commissioning and showing you exactly how to do it and the new technologies that are on the scene to where you could grow 1,000 heads of lettuce in your garage in 4 weeks through new technologies. It's going to be a great book. Now, in this book, I also show multiple World Health Organizations who all have one thing in common, and that theme in common is this. The world is running out of food, and workable farmlands are dwindling, not growing, as populations are exploding. Now, here are the facts. Fact, we are entering into a solar cycle that's called the solar minimum. You can look it up. It means that in the next 30 years, the sun is going to go into a normal, massive cooling cycle. You see, the sun heats and it cools and everything moves in rhythm in God's creation. Well, at this period, it's going to cool. And it's already cooling, and we've seen some disruptions in weather patterns already because of that. Now, this is going to affect planet Earth with weather pattern shifts, global cooling, an average of 3 to 5 degree temperature changes in the coming 30 years around the world, and in some places, much, much more cooler. A mass disruption of food, and food growing is going to happen in certain areas of the world with a result in mass migration. People are going to have to leave nations if they can't grow food there anymore. We've already seen the effects in the cooling with intensified weather shifts. Just this last year, remember the hurricanes? They're coming in early, they're leaving late, they're leaving destruction, they're making turns that they're not supposed to turn. Everything is changing because of the solar minimum. Volcanoes are popping all over the planet because of the solar minimum, the cooling, the heating, the things that are taking place. Now, the other fact is Earth's population is set to explode to 9.2 billion in the next 30 years. 9.2 billion mouths to feed. Another fact, our farmlands are not growing, but rather they're shrinking in size at this time. In the United States alone, the average age of a farmer is 60 years old. Now, the younger generation wants to move into the cities to work plush jobs in air-conditioned buildings, right? Farmers are becoming few and far between. We're falling headlong into a food crisis that's already showing up in the third world today. If you've not been there, I've been there. It's shown up now. The crisis is here, and it's now. So many global organizations, you'd know them by name if I named them. They're predicting within 10 years, my friend, 10 years. Think about building an ark. How long would it take Noah to build an ark? It took him 90. Well, how long is it going to take us to get advanced in front of this thing and have authority over it? Within 10 years, 20 to 40% of the world's population may not be able to find 1,000 calories to eat per day. That is trauma. That's crisis. Of course, this is going to result in famine. It'll result in wars, suffering like we've never seen before. And possibly, it's not going to hit our community, but it's going to hit billions in other communities around the world. And we are our brother's keeper. We need to be looking at this thing and get in front of it. Now, billionaire investor Jim Rogers, have you heard of him? I may have seen him on one of the popular, investment shows. Many others like him are declaring that farming is the new investment of the future. He said in a recent interview, "Do you want to make your child a millionaire? Send him to ag school for 2 years and buy him a farm. He will be a millionaire in his lifetime." Imagine that. He also says Wall Street will begin to abandon their plush jobs and become farmers when they see farmers driving Mercedes-Benz vehicles. Well, why is he saying this? He knows the facts of the future. And the fact is that the steamroller is coming at us very, very quickly, and governments can't do anything about it. They're already broke. They're not going to have the ability to just print money and fix the problem for us. The problem is too big. Therefore, God in his wisdom is raising up Josephs and Nehemiahs who will build quickly and prepare quickly and bring power to the global church. Now, I have a very good friend. His name is Pastor Dawes from India. He made 2 trips to our farm while we were building it to tell us one thing. He said, I want to remind you that my people are starving right now. He says, we won't be around in 10 to 15 years if something doesn't happen. Now, Pastor Dawes trains and sends between 250 to 350 church planters out every year into the hill tribes and villages of India. It's unbelievable. But listen to this. There's 500,000 unreached villages in India at this time. And that drives his calling to send church planters. And where these church planters are going, my friends, they're finding mass starvation, neglect of widows and orphans. They're finding a general incapacity of the people to farm and grow food. Why? Because they just have not been educated. Pastor Dawes has been a driving force for us that kept us up late at night and get us up early in the morning. He says, we need this project. We need it in India now. Our people don't have 10 years. And he says, I beg of you, please come to India. If you get a chance, go out on YouTube. You can see him on our videos. He's talking about India and about the great needs there and what this project is going to do for his nation. Now, there's a group called the Billion Soul Network. It's a group that I've been traveling with for 4 years. Their clarion call is to win 1 billion souls to Christ and to plant 5 million churches in the next 15 years. And they are on their way. I'm so proud of them and so proud to be a part. They have hundreds of thousands of church planters who are running into the same problem in India, Africa, parts of Latin America, and in Asia. And they've requested that we help them any way we possibly can. One of our good friends in life and ministry, Mitch and Millie know, is Pastor Javier and his wife Isabel Espinoza. And I travel with him 4 times a year. I've given him 4 conferences a year that I can leave the farm and help him in Latin America. And we train church planters, and I can tell you right now, the need is real, and the hunger for our agriculture project is massive among church planters. They're begging us, please get this done. Lord, help us. The reason that we built our farm in Panama was to offer a 12-month growing season, to build a prototype so we can train and educate church planters 12 months out of the year, as well as community leaders on the fundamentals of farming. Help them care for widows and orphans in distress, to help them feed the extremely poor in their areas. Now, to go back just with one of the words I've held on my whole life, when I was a young man, just starting out as youth pastoring and doing Christian evangelism concerts as a musician, my pastor in Kansas, and he's also my spiritual father, Don Madison, he always said to me and to our congregation, he just hit it over and over, and that is, food is power. Whoever has the food has the power. Now, at that time, I didn't fully understand what he was saying, but it's absolutely true. Anyone who has food to give will have an open door into homes, into hearts, into governments, schools, neighborhoods, and more. And this is why Jesus told Peter 3 times to feed his sheep. Why? Because it opens kingdom doors to all of society so they can hear and receive the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. To make a long story short, we have a lot to give to church planters around the world from right here in Panama. And we're ramping up to get this Fundamentals of Agriculture School on video, develop a website and a phone app, and get it into the hands of those who can multiply it in their parts of the world. Now imagine this, education in the hands of 100,000 church planters who will learn to plant a garden, plant a farm, or build a greenhouse, either commercial, out of bamboo, or out of steel. Imagine the capacity and favor of God that these church planters will walk in when they begin to care for God's most dear at heart, widows and orphans in distress, and the poor who can't feed themselves. Can you imagine the growth and explosion that's going to happen in their little villages, pueblos, and communities around the world? Now, our plans are to have this collegiate level education completed in 2019. God helping us and media experts working around the clock, we are planning to have this thing live and ready to go. Now, we're also planning a local project that I am so thrilled about, so excited about. I know Mitch and Millie also are extremely excited about that, because this is going to go right along with the whole agricultural piece. Now, our farm is in a little pueblo called Rovira, which is in the heart of Puerto Rios, Abajo, Chiriquí, Panama. Say that 3 times fast. Right up north of the city of David, and it's close to the Costa Rica border on the west side of Panama. It's gorgeous, plush. In the Chiriquí province, it's where all the food for all of Panama is grown. We're right in the middle of cowboy territory. It's like little Texas and little Colorado. Cowboy hats, caballeros, caballas, that's horses, and cowboys everywhere. And the pickup truck is the vehicle of choice in our little area. So it's also in this little town of Rovira. It's full of indigenous Nobe Indians. You may have seen some of the pictures Mitch and Millie will show you. And Chiricano Panamanians. And these people are hard-working farmers. In our village, they're hungry for the gospel. They're pliable, peaceful, happy, but they're suffering with lack, not many jobs available. They're all willing to work, but not many places to work. And there's a general poverty throughout the community. Now, the average income of the farmer there is $12 per day. No, not per hour. They're not doing a minimum wage increase to $9.50 or $10 an hour. It's $12 per day. Now, our farm, we pay $14 per day as an absolute. That's the most we can possibly pay and still pay the bills on the farm. But we pay $14, so we have the cream of the crop to choose from with our workers. And as you can imagine, though, these guys walk home. The whole community walks home with $60 to $75 per week. Most of them have anywhere from 3 to 6 children. Maybe a mom and a dad living with them, and maybe a sister that's divorced with 4 more kids. You know, the young man there in the front, named Alvaro, who's wearing a 1982 shirt with stripes, he cares. His $74 a week income buys and pays for food for 14 family members. Wow. Talk about locked in poverty. The way Panama is set also, these guys can only work 48 hours a week legally. So they're really locked in. 48 hours a week, that's $74 a week from our farm and about $62 a week from any other farm. How do you feed a family on $60 to $75 a week income? You don't do it very well. It's called rice and beans, and if a stray chicken comes along, you know, you may have chicken that week. One Panamanian lady told me, just as a little side joke, she was driving us around and we were looking at properties, and she said, "My mama always said the neighbor's chicken always tastes better." You have to be at a $75 a week income to really appreciate that. Through the years now, we've been helping ministries in Africa and Guatemala who've broken out of the box, the old Christian box, and they're performing complete community transformations. I've seen it happen. I've helped them do it. I've been a part of it, and we're going to do it right here in Rovira. So in order to do that now, we have to change our focus. The focus has to change. It's kind of like the old wineskin and the new wineskin. You can't use the old. You have to go new. So our focus is going to change from Sunday morning church services. And remember, I pastored for 20 years. So I know what it is to work all week to build up for a big Sunday morning church service, and then we're let down because more people and more visitors didn't come. But the focus in my ministry now is not on Sunday church service. That is a celebration of what happened Monday through Saturday. So now we're looking at the whole community. Our goal is to find the pieces that are missing or that are broken and work to repair and fill those pieces so the community can rise up and fulfill its purpose that was originally intended by God. We believe that every community is built and birthed by God. And God has a divine purpose for every community. So who better than a bunch of preachers and evangelists and pastors and kingdom business people to roll into town, find the problems, plug the holes, fix the problems, and raise the community out of poverty, out of spiritual darkness, and out of their shame and out of all the troubles they've lived in for hundreds of years. That's the focus. And if we can do that through community transformation, we're certainly going to have something big to celebrate on Sundays. Now, what you're looking at on the slides right now is the front entry part of our farm. On the right picture there, you see the big white rock. It's not painted with the sign yet, but it's coming. And that there's a building there that will soon be a dehydration center where we can dehydrate soup mixes for widows and orphans and little fruit snack packs for those that are in distress and need nutrition up in the mountain areas. You see the greenhouses back behind, but in between that building and those greenhouses is about 60 feet. And we're planning now to cover that. We're going to put a roof over that. We're going to concrete the whole area so it works during the daytime as a parking lot, but it will also work as a covered area. Everyone's protected from rainy season, and we're going to be able to house over 100 people under that roof at one time. Now, you can't see up real close, but that building, when we built that building, we built it on purpose for this day. We did it a year ago, but we knew this day was coming. And what you see underneath that roof on that building is the town's largest stage. The lighting is already set on it. We can light that baby up at nighttime. We use generators right now. We hope and pray electricity is coming in the future, but until then, we use generators. And that is I believe it is a 38-foot long concert stage. It's also a dock high for trucks to pull in and take food away. And that is going to be the platform for church services, for community training, and for many things that we're going to be doing. Isn't that exciting? So in our little community, some of the great needs that are here, every community is different. And I've found one of the greatest ways to find the biggest needs, go to the mayor. Go down to the mayor. He's not going to understand you for a moment, but ask him. He's the guy that knows what all the needs are. He knows where all the gaps are, where all the poor people are, where the complaints are, and where things are not being done right. Ask him. And this is kind of a new deal. It's a new wineskin question. But can you imagine a whole bunch of pastors and godly people going to mayors all around the world and saying, "Sir, what's your dream? What are the main problems, and what could we do to help you and to lift your hands?" I promise you, if you ask that question, you're going to find out immediately what the need is. You're going to find people that will help meet that need, and you're going to find great favor in the government institutions. Every permit you ever need is stamped. Every road you ever need built is built. Anything you need is done for you because you will have been the only group of people in the history of that mayor's service who've ever come and offered to help. Everyone needs a piece of him. Everyone wants cash and time and attention from him, but who wants to come help? We do. That's the kingdom operation. So our little community, we know that when we start a church, we're planning to start it probably in January. We're going to start it also with a Bible college in Spanish. It's on DVD. It's a great Bible college, and it will help to prepare strong spiritual leaders who can take this church and run with it in the future, and who are also interested in missions work. This will prepare their hearts and prepare them in the Word of God. We're going to teach English classes. We're going to make the people bilingual who want to be. Anyone who has a job in Panama, if they're bilingual, their income goes up 50% immediately because they're bilingual. At least 50%, if not double. Do you see how we can simply come into this little pueblo, restore them, and raise them up out of poverty by educating them in English, giving them Bible college, giving them a born-again experience and with a good group of family, Christian family that will pray with them and see them through whatever they're going through. Believing God for miracles and signs and wonders in their lives and in their little community. We also are planning to provide a Jobs for Life program. This is powerful. It's been in action for years. And this Jobs for Life program educates people how to become the most important and the best employees in Panama. Now, we're going to use Bible principles of servanthood, how to clock in early, clock out late. Be the very best you can be for your boss. Serve him as unto the Lord. There's such a need in our world for that these days. There's a lot of people who have a job who take, but there's not a lot who serve. And the servants rise to the top. This proven system, we're going to put it right in Rovira, and we're going to help people who want that help. We're also going to offer job skills training. Think about that. I heard that we've got some nurses in the house. We've got possibly some auto mechanics in the house, people that do all different things. You know, for years, I have seen people who say, I just don't know if I could ever do anything for the Lord. I'm an auto mechanic. I repair shoes or whatever it is. But I'm here to tell you, people all around the world need your skill set. And if they could get it, they could advance in a business or in a job that would provide for their families and pull them out of abject poverty. I'm literally talking here about families that if they could come up and double their income, they could put a wood floor in their hut instead of walking on dirt, and instead of mud and water flowing through the house in rainy season when it's raining. Can you imagine? We can't even imagine that in our lives, but this is where they're at. And to raise them up to that degree, we have a little duplex that we created. We built it on our farm. We built it for $3,000. So you know it's not much. It's just some steel and some siding and a roof on it and a wood floor. And all of the people there call that Hotel California. It's hard for us to understand to a degree that they're looking up at Hotel California and we're looking down saying, I wouldn't even store my stuff in there. The Lord spoke to me last week and he said, Daniel, I'm calling my people to come down off of their high horse. Now, let me put that into perspective. What happens when you're on a high horse? You're up, you're riding on something else's strength. You're looking good. You ride up to the workers. You look down at them. And you say, "Hey guys, keep working. Keep planting that field. Do this, do that." You know, we're directors. We direct from the horse. But when you come down off of that high horse, the big one, you know, the big one that the commanders and leaders ride on, when you come down off the horse, your feet are on the ground, and it's time to get to work. And it's that work ethic that will change communities for the gospel of Jesus and the kingdom of God. I have to say, I came down off of a real high horse living in Dallas, living the plush life, moving to Central America. But when I heard the Lord say that to me a couple weeks ago, Daniel, I'm calling my people to come down off their high horse, I knew I'm still on a horse and I need to come down. I got to come down. I've got to get in with them. I've got to mix with them. I've got to love them and live with them. That's coming down off my high horse. I hope that ministers to someone here. If you have the tallest, largest horse in town, I'm not picking on you. All right. So the job skills training that we'll also be offering will coincide with who can come. And maybe someone can come for a week. Maybe they can come for 3 months or 6 months or a year and help people with a job skill. Some of the job skills I know of right off the top of my head would be like teaching the ladies how to clean a home. Imagine if you have a home with no floor, you know how to sweep that dirt, but how do you clean tile? How do you clean carpet? These ladies need to learn how to clean homes so they could go to work and become a maid. Sewing and clothing repair, auto and mechanic repair, huge Everyone's got a car that's broken, and we need mechanics everywhere. We need cell phone sales and repair people, landscaping, design work, people who can just mow a lawn real good. That's what we need in Panama. Someone who could start a little grocery store, a hardware store, or even learn how to drive a taxi cab, which most people in Panama will never drive a car. They'll only take taxis and buses their whole life. So there's a big need for bus drivers, taxi drivers, and semi-truck drivers. There is an ultimate eternal shortage of semi-truck drivers, which pays huge money in Panama. And if we could pull an indigenous guy with an average of a fourth grade education, and we could get him a driver's license and get him on into trucking school speaking English and Spanish, the guy is set for the rest of his life. Amazing. You may say, well, why don't we just leave them as farmers? Well, I'm going to give you the facts. In 10 years, my farm will be farmed by robots. And as soon as the robots cost less than my workers, the robots are farmers. So we need to find workers and farmers around the third world. We need to find them jobs and strategies to win in the next 10 years rather than being totally unemployed looking at robots. And that's just the way it is. Now, imagine how these people could thrive and how they could succeed if they learned a job skill. They learn English, and they're the best employees in Panama. This is what we're planning to accomplish over the next few years in Rovira. Now, we're looking for success. We know there's going to be setbacks. We know there's going to be trials and tests. We're willing to deal with that. We're willing to to have perseverance and patience, and to move also with the miraculous in the kingdom of God. Now, while we do this, I want you to understand we will also be cataloging and videotaping every inch of the way. Why? Because this community transformation is so far out of the Sunday church ideology. The Billion Soul Network, Latin American Billion Soul, and these church planters up in the hill tribes, they are going to take this and go ballistic with it in their communities when they see how to step in and unite with and serve the mayors, the governors, the city council people, the educators, the teachers, the principals, those who know where the needs are, where we step out Monday through Saturday and get to work, come down off the high horse and get to work with them, and they see this happen. It's going to open favor and open the doors for the gospel to be preached and received in every one of these communities around the world. That is so exciting to me. And we'll have the platform set through the agricultural college. We can also take this as an educational session and send it straight up the line to all church planters that we're connected with. And we know we're going to find thousands and thousands more over the next couple years as this thing comes online. So, wow. With that, setbacks, advancements, successes, it's all going to happen. But we know what the Lord's told us to do. We believe it's a new wineskin movement, and we've seen His provision and supply over and over again, and we keep feeding people, and He keeps bringing more supply. I want to share this story right before I end, and I'm about finished. When we pulled our first harvest out of this greenhouse, it was almost 3,000 pounds of peppers. We didn't have a market for them, so we just gave them away. We went everywhere we could. We went to schools, principals, and we went down to the mayor's office here in our county area called Dolega. I walked in with 4 bags of peppers, and the mayor said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "We are here to give these peppers to you because you know who the poor people are. We don't. So would you please just give these out in your name to all of the poor in your area?" The whole staff dropped their jaws. They hadn't seen anything happen like this. And he said, "Thank you. I sure will. I'm going to do that." And so after that, got a hold of us and he said, by the way, I want to let you know, if you ever have a building permit you need permitted, consider it stamped. Done deal. If you need anything from me, come ask. It's a done deal. I've had to ask him a couple times to help me, and he's jumped up and helped. One of our friends who's a construction guy, he was over talking to the mayor about another project just 3 months ago. And he said, he said to the mayor, or the mayor said to him, do you know Daniel Daves, and do you know that farming project and what they're doing out there? And the guy said, oh yeah, have you seen what they're planning to do? They have got some plans to build huge greenhouses and homes and a college out there. And the mayor said, you got to be kidding me. So the guy pulled it up on his phone and showed him. I had sent him those photos and those pictures, the drawings and renditions. And the mayor said, oh no. He said, I've got to get him a road. The mayor rushed out and built us a $25,000 bridge over the river. We go down through a river 4 to 6 times a day to get in and out of that farm. And in high season, that river's up to our door handles. And with raging water, sometimes we get locked in or out. We can't get through. And he built us a $25,000 bridge. It's almost completely finished. The crazy thing is, he built a bridge that's 2 lanes wide, but our road is only 1 small lane, big enough for a truck or a horse or some people walking. The mayor is building us a 2-lane road all the way to the farm. You know what it cost us? 4 bags of peppers. That's it. And a heart to say, we want to help. What can we do to help? We're here to feed the poor, but you know who they are, so you give them away. We don't need the credit. Don't tell them it's from us. You tell them it's from you. And that is just one of those divine lines of supply that come when you're willing to feed the poor. My friends, I can't tell you how appreciative I am that you'd give me your time and your ear and take time to listen to me tell you about our project. Listen, I want to beg of you, please remember us in your daily prayers. What we're doing is not easy. It requires a lot of focus, patience, perseverance, a lot of sweat, a lot of hard work. And we have found the old saying to be true: you will never be able to plow a field only using your mind. We've had to come down off the horse and get busy, and we're busy, but it's to the glory of God. I'm so thankful that He has allowed us to participate in what He's doing around the world. One thing that you might be wondering, well, what are you doing to prepare? Right now, we're preparing for this big January launch date where we're believing God that all of the team members will be in place. So we're interviewing long and short-term missions team members for positions in that grand opening team. We're finishing up our licensed food quality dehydration center, so we can be dehydrating foods to give away the moment this church starts. One of the things we want to do with Little Rovira is we want to make it the greatest it's ever been. And if I can show you there's a thing back here. Here we go. See down at the bottom, Rovira, the greatest little community in Panama. The best employees in Panama, the most giving community in Panama. We're going to do that through dehydration and volunteer work. We're going to train these people how to volunteer their time to give into the poor, and it's going to be bring a supply line of blessing to them. And the happiest little community in Panama. I hope we get a town sign that says that, so everyone who drives by says, there's something going on in that little town. We need to go check it out. I believe there will be people actually wanting to move that way, to live there after they see what is happening in this little town. So, and then we're also, in finishing that up, we're also building now, and we're preparing and raising funds to build the concrete floor and the large roof that'll keep up to 100 people dry, so that we can meet all day, all night, for any purpose, train people during the day, have church services during the night, whatever it would be. We need to be able to keep them out of the rain. So those are the things that we're doing right now to prepare, and we really, really appreciate your prayers. We're also figuring out how we're going to house team members and exactly where. We may put container homes in, pre-built container homes, or we may build, we're looking at building a fourplex out there right now that would house missions teams and permanent team members as well. So thank you, and you guys have a great discussion. Anything that I can do to answer questions, feel free. Just contact me on WhatsApp, Millie, and I'll stick close to my cell phone here during that time, okay? And there's Mitch and Millie out at the farm. What a great couple. I can't tell you how proud and how honored we are to be locking arms with and linking up with Mitch and Millie. We have seen them over the last 3 years in Panama, walking such a faithful walk and ministering to the unloved and reaching out to those who others would never dream of reaching out to. They've endured, they've advanced, and they're powerful, powerful people in the kingdom of God. So we're glad to be linked up with you guys, and folks, treat them right. Okay? God bless you, and we'll see you soon. Good night.